I'm not only optimistic, the institutional experience tells us that the venture cycle is fairly predictable. We don't know exactly when, but it went up, it goes down, it's tough, exits will come back, and these years will probably turn out to be one of the best investment years ever, at least from a historical perspective. So that's the pro, and that's fairly predictable.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Merle.
Well, welcome to tonight's event, Swiss VCs on Stage. My name is Merle. I'm here in the name of Swisspreneur and the Impact Hub Zurich, and I'm very excited to guide you through tonight's event. So today we will talk about the Swiss VC landscape, challenges, opportunities, the future. And of course, there will be more than enough time for you to connect with one another and to network afterwards at the apéro as well. So let's move to our panel discussion. We have four wonderful people here that will join me on the stage, and I'm happy to talk to them a bit further about their challenges, their approaches, and go a bit more into detail. So I would like to ask Andrea, Teddy, David, and Tanvi on stage. Thank you very much for being here. Hello. So everyone also gets a little bit less than 1 minute to present themselves. Very shortly, what you're doing, what is your focus? Who wants to start? Andrea. Yeah, with that microphone.
So good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for letting me talk a bit about Equity Pitchers tonight. Equity Pitcher was founded in 2016. We are an early growth investor investing in the most innovative companies B2B across Europe with a focus on DACH region and Switzerland. We are currently at 30 portfolio companies that we have invested into with 3 funds. We are currently at 70 million assets under management under raising our 100 million fund at the moment. We are closely working with universities to get access to the most successful startups in Switzerland with ETH, EPFL, and in Germany together with TU München Fraunhofer Institute. And also we are closely working together with industry experts and to support our portfolio companies in sales.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is David. I'm one of the founding partners of Markup Partners. Not so a familiar brand name because we so far run 2 single LP funds. One is called Ringia Digital Ventures, which maybe some have heard of you. The other one is Lightbird Ventures, a B2B focused single LP fund. And now we decided to raise our first multi-LP fund, 50 million fund, focusing on improving people's lives. So mainly better living, healthier living, better food, healthier food. And we are investing in DACH and the Nordics.
Hallo zusammen. Teddy, founding partner of Spice House Partners. My co-founder Daniel and I have invested in more than 40 Swiss technology startups in the last 12 years. We were part in some of the largest success stories of the recent Swiss venture history, including Bexio and Movu. And based on that, we institutionalized as Spice House Partners in 2018. We're now in our second fund generation. We think about digital transformation and specialize in B2B software companies that have the potential to scale internationally. So we want them to be sophisticated, that they compete. It's deep tech, it's AI, it's cybersecurity, it's fintech, it's robotics. We are very proud of our investors. We have 4 categories. We have family offices, we have asset managers, we have private individuals, and we have pension funds. And what they like about us is that we are entrepreneurs. So we own Spice House Partners 100%. We invest our own money. We have skin in the game, and we do everything we can to support our portfolio companies. So if you want to add spice to your portfolio, speak with Spice House Partners.
Thank you. Speaking of spice, I'm going to introduce you to Nirmata. We are vintage 2024. We are raising our first fund as we speak. I think Thomas mentioned the fastest growing venture industry is building in India. So we are building in the dry powder opportunity for the European investments to get into India, where there is big ecosystem building up. I'm not going to do a speech on India as the right opportunity for investment. That could take another full evening for a discussion, but we are an early stage investment fund focused on India opportunities and also the Swiss opportunities to grow big in India. We work with a lot of big venture partners and corporate partners in India for the opportunities that we like to invest in at the early stage. We invest in fintech, clean tech, and biotech. I had the opportunity of living half my life in India and the other half in Switzerland. So bring in a unique blend of the two cultures working together. And we have seen some really good startups that have the founders from India and are building here at ETH and EPFL. So we want to give them boost with the investments coming in from many of you here in the room and many other LPs that have put in the trust for running this as we start.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here. We're sharing one microphone. This is a proper cozy panel discussion. So we've heard a lot about that it's important and good to either be an entrepreneur, to have entrepreneurial experience, I think it was said. So Andrea, I want to know from you, I know you're also a mentor for early stage startups. You founded the initiative also FINMA, and now you're also at Equity Pitcher. How would you, in your perspective, say that having this perspective as a mentor and seeing the startups also has shaped your approach as a VC?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And our team has dedicated so much time on that question in the past. But since the beginning of Equity Pitcher Ventures, we have been focusing on one single value add that we want to give to our portfolio companies. And that is generating returns for them. Because we can see across all industries, no matter in what phase you are, you need to show that you are able as a startup to show traction. So having new customers, adding more value per customer, winning and growing. And this is where Equity Pitcher comes in. We are closely working with our founders together and we connect them to the C-level managers of their potential customers. And that's how we can shorten their sales cycles and make sure that they can generate more return in order to be ready for the next fundraising round. And this is highly valued by all of our portfolio companies. I think this is also why we are a preferred investor for new portfolio companies. And it works really well because at the end, our ultimate goal is to generate return for our investors. And this helps directly.
Mm-hmm. And talking about, seeing them grow and being there from the day one, basically. Teddy, you've been in the scene for 18 years. And 18 years, that's when somebody's grown up. They're an adult. Has Switzerland grown up?
The Swiss startup baby has actually grown a lot in those 18 years. It's a teenager and it's quite a talented kid, I must say. It's a so-called Wunderkind, I would say. The Swiss startup kid is a world leader in robotics. We've seen that Thomas presented it. It's a world leader in drones. It has one of the largest supercomputers in the world for AI. It can sell cybersecurity solutions with the label Swiss made in any country in the world. So we believe that's really cool to see. But jokes aside, speaking about the kid, what I observed in the last 10 years is that the venture capital in Switzerland has become very much international. Not just the founders, also the investors. It used to be a Schweizerdeutsch or Roman event, whatever we attended. And now you have the US VCs flying in from their London base. They invest here for the first time. We have acquirers from Asia, from Germany, from UK, from Italy, VCs. And there's a lot going on because they see we have excellent tech. It provides a catch-up effect, and I think we're on a very good track to further grow our ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Sounds properly grown up, I think. Mm-hmm. And David, you mentioned before that you manage the corporates, or like the corporate venture capital. Imagine a crowd doesn't know a lot, no offense, about this topic. How do you explain the difference between a corporate VC and an institutional VC?
Yeah, so we were not a typical corporate VC. So we managed it as a single LP fund. So I think for corporates, it's very important to play in this game to respect the rules. And we tried to replicate that with building a single LP structure, one big investor, namely Mobiliar and Ringier in our case, and respect the rules. So we have done our GP commitment. We have kind of a term and everything. So carry management fee, so everything. And I think the better you understand the market and you're an active participant in the market, the easier it is for a corporate to play in. If you're standing outside, I think the traditional VCs will not like you, because then you go in with a fully strategic eye on it, but then you'll be better an acquirer because you want to own the company and not share it with others. And in the VC space, partially is also sharing the profit, sharing or helping together a company grow, and not owning them fully, and support the entrepreneur and bringing him or supporting him to bring the company as fast as possible to the next level, and not exploit the technology just by one company.
This episode was sponsored by Property, the leading real estate agent for all real estate transactions with a comprehensive ecosystem. They combine highly trained experts with the latest technologies on an intelligent platform to provide clients, brokers, and service partners with risk-free, flexible, and simplified services. Learn more at property.com. That's property with an I.com.
Talking about corporates, because I know, Tanvi, that you've worked a lot in certain corporates, one specific, and specifically big data. You call yourself an evangelist of big data. What would you say, or do you see any examples where big data has driven innovation, specifically in the financial sector where you have your background in?
Definitely. I led the big data, AI analytics and technology team for both Credit Suisse and UBS. So coming in from the big banks and building the ecosystem, the infrastructure there, I would definitely be an evangelist. I mean, a lot of you in the room can opine on how much of the actual use of AI and technology you do see in your regular day-to-day finance and banking. But we started that journey around 2016 and 2017 when the big data lakes and data centers were in fashion. And we were building in and buying in all of the different data silos into one location. And the benefit of what we see in the hype of AI and data is building on the foundation of having a good quality data. That is a journey that started in many banks and many financial institutes for about a decade now. I think the area where most of us can see and feel AI being utilized, although in the banking industry, we've been using AI for the last 2 decades or more in different forms and shapes, but with fraud detection. I mean, your credit cards get blocked on the run in real time, saving a lot of cybersecurity frauds. That is AI in the making. It's sometimes friction. Your credit cards don't work, but that saves a lot of challenges. And that technology wasn't available 5 years back. That's a great example for us to see data and AI in action. The other one is credit scoring. The credit scoring used to be very specific numbers before of how I would grade credit versus somebody else's credit worthiness. Now there is a lot of data that flows into it. And that kind of determines the SME business, the small and medium-sized industry now become credit worthy because of the flow of data, the flow of traffic on their respective sites, on their respective businesses. So overall, broadly, it's not a new trend of using AI and data in banking, but also very, very specific now that AI has become democratized. We've started to see our own set of systems, our own usability of AI, and that's why the hype and huge amount of investments going into the industry.
And you mentioned that you just launched. Congrats, by the way. What are your do's and don'ts when you're looking for LPs?
We have started with few anchor LPs. So the do's I could definitely share is to take them along with the journey. When we talk about tech investments, we talk about AI investments. I think it's fascinating to see how much people are willing to learn and come along with you in how you manage those set of activities. So what we started to do new is not just sending them, which is part of the process, sending them investment thesis and documentation as they work with us. We also create personalized podcasts for their investments, and that's the way for them to consume information. So as Thomas said, like, you got to evolve not just investment into AI, but also how you imbibe AI on a day-to-day basis. I think what our LPs also appreciate is the opportunity to co-invest. As a new fund, we are giving them the co-investment opportunities together with us, and we're giving them full access to our data room, which is quite extensive given we are doing a lot of work in creating a flow of new deals that are not existing available to the European LPs. The don'ts, I think, don't shortcut on compliance and regulatory. As a new setup fund, there are new ways of doing things which are much more digital than the paperwork we have been used to doing in the finance world. And what we have realized is to make it even more robust and foolproof. And that is what the LPs actually appreciate. If you are upfront about it from day one and do not cringe a lot about the compliance cost and the operational cost, which is usually the topic of conversation for the new funds.
And Teddy, would you say it's a good time to look for investors?
Of course. We managed to launch our second fund in April of this year. And yeah, it was challenging and we still did it. Also, the first fund was challenging, so I guess there's nothing new with that. Even though I think today there are many good arguments why you would start investing or start a new fund. It's typically after those peak years, after 2000, after 2006, and now presumably after 2022. It's where we've historically seen the strongest vintages for venture funds. It's when business plans are more realistic, when the exaggerated terms are over, when only the best founders get funded, who know that it's going to be a difficult, long walk and not an easy journey. And also, I think venture capital has established as an asset class. I mean, we have full house today. Super happy about that. And it's an asset class that not only delivers financial returns, but also creates value in terms of innovation, in terms of job creation. It's good for the economy. So I think there are many good reasons, and they didn't go away. They're even stronger today than they were a few years ago.
Adding on to this, David, do you see any changes, or what are the current demands and expectations of investors?
Yeah, I think there is a trend in the market currently going on. What we see is there are big funds, really big funds, and there are smaller funds like 30 to 50 and maybe some single GP funds, which are between 10 and 20. So in the middle, there seems to be kind of bit of, hard territory to raise. And this is one of the trends we see. You mentioned also one, the digitalization is going on in the product itself. So we all maybe remember us when we open now a bank account. It's still a lot of paperwork, and in the venture industry, it was even more. And now we see that it's kind of going down again with digital solutions. And we see also some kind of asks from LPs that you look for diversity. I think super important topic for all of us, that what your target is with your fund. We heard today before we are a fund which are not only delivering financial returns, we're reducing CO2, for example, and these kind of things getting more important. You need to stand out, and LPs are looking for what is your USP. Are you better basically in selecting or building your pipeline? So you need to show them why you are the one they should invest in. I think that is really something that came up over the last years. And especially when money is a bit tighter, you really need to prove yourself.
And what happens if you don't deliver as promised? Andrea?
Well, until now, we were very fortunate. We've been investing since 2016. We haven't lost a single company until today. So we are very happy. But of course, we need to think about things like that. What happens if you don't perform as promised? You probably lose the trust from your LPs, and then you won't be able to continue and raise new funds. So what can you do to gain the trust and to have the trust of your LPs? You can invest into being very transparent. So, for example, when reporting to your LPs, we are always very transparent. We are valued by a low value principle. So we always try to underpromise and overdeliver. And I think in this industry, this is very important because once you go this way of, or decide to go the way of fake it till you make it, you won't have the trust of your investors in the long term. And that won't allow you to raise other funds. So learning on how to build trust with your investors is very important. I also think you should be able to have the processes within your GP, within your firm, to make sure that you learn from mistakes, because I don't think that anyone in here can say proudly that they haven't done mistakes at all. But it's very important. We all do mistakes, that we can learn from those mistakes and we don't do them again. And that also helps at the end in gaining this trust from your LPs. And then finally, I also think in supporting your portfolio companies, being there in good and being there in bad times, not only working hard when time gets tough, but always be there. Make sure to ask yourself, how can you improve as a GP? How can you do better every day and strive for performance?
Mm. You said something about following the rules, and I have a question for both David and Teddy. How much of a hurdle are regulations? And specifically also, how do you both deal with the FINMA regulation in each of your?
So we're FINMA regulated. There was basically no chance to go around it because we wanted to take the investment decision here in Switzerland because the vehicle is in Switzerland we use. Of course, it comes with a certain portion of work. We were quite lucky. I heard others, we got our license in half a year. Others are working longer on it, but we were also at the very beginning when we did the license. So we're working since the beginning where the license came out with this license. I think it's setting a certain standard, which is good for the market. But I mean, we all know that we have to respect some rules which are obvious. Don't do kind of insider deals and these kind of things, which of course are in the regulations you get from FINMA. But it gives also a certain security to the LPs because you have rules, how much own capital you need to have and so on to continue the business and these kind of things. And yeah, for us, there was no question. I wouldn't say it's a hurdle for us, but it takes some work. But when you get used to it, it's pretty fast in doing it.
If I may add, we have a slightly different setup, but I agree. I mean, without regulation, I would say it's almost impossible to raise institutional capital. We're regulated in Liechtenstein, so our fund is regulated by the Financial Market Authority, and everything we do in Switzerland by FINMA. But in Switzerland, we do distribution and we advise the fund. What we did on top, but this creates sort of a second layer of trust. Our fund is a fully regulated mutual fund structure. So our investors can subscribe via an ISIN number, via Valor number. So everything is on their bank deposit, which makes it very secure in the traditional fields where it makes administration a breeze and where they trust because it's a mechanism they understand from all the other asset classes. So for us, this has proven to be a good setup.
Mm-hmm. And talking about processes and things that you have to follow, Tanvi, as an expert also in this topic, where do you see AI finding its way into the investment business of VCs? Where can it support also?
I think we've already seen a big part of AI taking space. And while we come to investing in the public markets, we've seen alphas, we have seen returns in the range of 50% plus in good years, with AI and algo trading being the norm for many, many years. A lot of hedge funds have made a lot of money in that space. The private markets and VCs are obviously much harder because you don't have the data aligned. The data is very distributed. The quality of data is not in place. But increasingly, we are seeing a lot of startups that VCs can fund to make VCs better. And we are targeting few of them as part of Nirmata's investments, is where the identification and due diligence of startups could be very, very beneficial. So just for Nirmata, because we believe if you invest in AI, you have to eat your own dog food. Just try and use what is out there. So we have taken subscriptions to some of those big providers, CB Insights being one of them. It also takes into account a lot of the social media data that gives you a lot of information if you are investing in any B2C kind of platform. Other than that, we are building a small team of actual developers that are helping us include APIs from different places in order for us to track news, mostly regulations. Because if you're in clean tech, regulations in different places can really determine if it is the right investment for you or not. And also the opportunities for investment when new technologies comes in. So there's data from research, data from filings that can also help in determining the right investments and the right alphas going forward. So we would see going forward a lot of VC 3.0 kind of tools and technologies that would act as a co-pilot to obviously the assessment and the intellect of the GPs making the right investment decisions.
I think it's really a co-pilot because what we see a lot of VCs are using signal trackings and so on, some things you describe, scraping, social, LinkedIn, whatever. But this is just a hint, basically a support in the selection process if you're faster. But the decision, the earlier you go, the more it's still an art, I would say, compared to a science project selecting the right startup. And there, the partners, the teams, and the startups need to find the fit and need to select still as a human and not as a machine.
Mm. And before we talk more about your predictions also for the future, I want to touch upon one topic. And you said it before, Teddy, that diversity is really important when looking not only for investors, but also who to invest into. But I would also like to understand when we talk about ESG generally, how are the new regulations, specifically also SFDR, influencing your work and how can you make sure also that we put an emphasis on these topics? I know you or David, Andrea, anyone.
I can start with an idea for everyone in the group. I mean, of course, we know that diversity is key. Diverse teams are more successful, be that your academic background, your work background, where you grew up. A big topic in venture capital is gender diversity. Only 10% of startups are founded by women. Happens that our funds actually beat the market. So we have 25% of portfolio companies that have female founders. We don't have that because we have a quota. These are impressive groups of people, impressive individuals, and we just happen to invest there. But it's a topic that is dear to our heart. So what we have been supporting is ICT Scouts Switzerland. That's an organization that tackles the problem at the root. So the organization was founded to motivate school children, particularly girls, but also boys, everyone, to start a profession in the STEAM. What is it? Science, technology, engineering, math. So what's it called? A MINT job, STEM. Exactly, STEM, danke. MINT jobs. So we want to motivate them early on to pursue a career that at the end of the day, we don't do that for us. We do that for everyone, that we will have a more diverse sample of founders and other professionals. And I think that's something that everybody could join. They're looking for members to contribute money, but also workshops, go to schools, etc. It's fun to experience that.
Really good. Write that down.
ICT Scouts.
David, would you like to add anything on the taxonomy
I think
regulations?
diversity we covered already. Or my partner Bea in the fund, she's supporting a lot of these initiatives. And for our new fund, we have also developed an own impact model because we want to also deliver impact. And I think this is one of the things we try to be unique at without too much regulation. We're not a big fan of Article 9, for example, but we need to deliver also a certain impact. And that's why we developed our own impact model. And the traditional methods, which are the big corporates are using, are hard, to be honest, for startups. And I think there we need to find better solutions in the future. And with our model, we try to go our own way.
Do you want to add? Or
Yeah, I mean, a lot is said, and I fully agree. We have also set in place our own framework that suits to us specifically. And that was very important to us, that not just because our LPs were asking for ESG topics and we're also pushing on that we should be reporting on topics like that we have a frame that suits to us. And I think that's also where our values come in, which is deeply anchored already in our investment strategy and in our investment thesis. But I think we had to really write it down and all agree on how we want to be investing. And there are some focus areas where we have been focusing on. So manufacturing safety, for example, is a topic that we have been investing in heavily. So with antibiotics, for example, we want to make robots go there where it's too dangerous for humans to be. Also, manufacturing safety is where our portfolio company Vinctra comes in. We have portfolio companies that want to or aim for CO2 reduction, improve healthcare access, and of course, over the whole portfolio, we also want to generate new jobs, so have also a social impact. And that's something that's very important to us and that we also support and report to our LPs, but it's not something that came up and it's just a trend that we want to follow. And just because everyone is talking about ESG, we are now an ESG fund, just as we are not an AI fund now, because AI is a very hot topic. So I think it's very important that as a GP, you really understand on what are your values and anchor this in the long term in your investment decisions.
Together with Talent Cake, Swisspreneur just released its 5th masterclass. This time on how to create the ideal team framework with your co-founders to ensure future success. It's based on Talent Cake's Founders Agreement. We've got Talent Cake's CEO Viviana Groppengieser, Yokoi co-founder Melanie Gabriel, and Scandit co-founder Christoph Roduner giving you their first-hand experience on how to align the goals of everyone in your team, how to split roles and responsibilities, and why equity, vesting, and investment are topics you need to discuss from day one. It's an intense team-forming bootcamp, and it's available for free on our website. Click the link in the show notes to start watching it now.
And talking about long-term is a finishing question for all of you. You now have your crystal ball and you can predict the future. For each one of you, what do you predict for the landscape, investment, and venture capital in 2025 and beyond?
So I'll start again. Yes. Exactly. So interest rates are coming down again. So we are very happy about that. So it's again a topic that I think we have a lot of meetings with potential investors, and it's a topic venture capital is still very much underinvested in Switzerland in general. But there is much interest also coming from pension funds since we have reached that that certain level of asset under management. We have now many meetings with pension funds. And I think with 1,000 billion asset under management only in Switzerland, in pension fund, there is a lot of potential on that side. And I think also with the generational shift within the decision makers within pension funds, I'm very optimistic that we are going to grow as a market and as an ecosystem, and that we will grow from a teenager to an adult very soon. That's my biggest hope. On a deal flow side, I'm very, very optimistic because in the last 12 months, we have been back on 7 investments that we have done. And there are some absolutely outstanding portfolio companies in the last 12 months. And this is a great sign for also the later stage funds. So yeah, I'm very optimistic.
I think we heard that already. I do believe the same, that these vintages will be great because of the reason we discussed. Valuations are coming down. Talent is here. So in terms of deal flow, we see a lot of good companies. And I think all the VCs in the room here see good companies. I think what we also heard and what I hope and I truly believe that exits come back, because a lot of investors, family offices, private individuals are stuck in deals, in funds, and they are looking for returns and not allocating more money into venture. They want to recycle and also use the gains to go back into venture. So I think and hope, and my crystal ball says the next year exits will come back and the reallocation will be here. And it's really needed, because we hear that often from different angles that people look for in liquidity.
So let me spice up the panel a bit, if you allow, because I'm not only optimistic. We're both co-founders of Spice House, Daniel and I. We have entrepreneurial experience and institutional. So I wouldn't want to miss either of the two. As entrepreneurs, we know what it takes, but the institutional experience tells us that the venture cycle is fairly predictable. We don't know exactly when, but no, it went up, it goes down, it's tough, exits will come back. And these years will probably turn out to be one of the best investment years ever, at least from a historical perspective. So that's the pro, and that's fairly predictable. But as a former startup founder and entrepreneur, I just know it's very tough. And some people think investing in venture capital is like playing roulette. So you place your bet, you lean back, you wait, and I wish it was the case. But reality, as we know, is it's just going to be tough. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. And sales cycles are still long. And yes, everybody says M&A markets are coming back, but coming back doesn't mean this month, probably comes in some years. So our job is to support, our job is to have the marathon capabilities. So to wait, to be patient, but still push every day. And I think it's going to be better, but it will be some work still to do in 2025.
Yeah, so I would have the final prediction as the new fund on the block. I don't think that we would benefit a lot from exits, but I understand that 2025, 2026 would be the year of exits. We see a lot of IPOs in India, and that is also very exciting, why we wanted to bring in the geography of India much more closer to Switzerland. The free trade agreement between Switzerland and India got signed this year, which has its implementation in 2025, which will also bring in much stronger ties between Switzerland and India politically, not just for venture, but the overall industry. And I think that would trigger a lot of exits, not just for the Indian companies through IPOs in India, but a lot of European and the Swiss companies making exits into India and having a differential route than always making an exit in the Americas. And I do feel that the biggest alpha is going to be in the climate tech space. Perhaps the first $1 trillion company in the next 5 to 7 to 10 years is going to come in from the climate tech area. So any of you and all of you are working in the climate tech space, that's the one to keep sight on from my crystal ball.
Thank you very much. Just give a big round of applause for wonderful panelists. Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.